You know, for centuries, we've been absolutely fascinated by the unusual, the extraordinary. Sideshows, sometimes called freak shows, they drew these huge crowds, right? Everyone was just eager to get a look at people who were different. But what happens when we actually look past the spectacle? Well, that's what we're going to do. Let's uncover the real human stories of the performers who truly challenged reality itself.
And this really gets to the heart of the whole thing. It's the big question that hangs over this entire history. Was the sideshow a world of just cruel exploitation, or was it a rare chance for people who were otherwise pushed aside by society to find work, a community, and maybe even a little bit of fame? As we're about to see, the answer is, well, it's incredibly complicated. To even begin to understand this, you have to transport yourself back in time. We're talking the 19th and early 20th centuries. So this is way before TV, way before the internet. For a whole lot of people, the circus or a traveling fair was the absolute peak of entertainment. It was this little window into a world of pure wonder and curiosity.
So right at the heart of all these events, you had the sideshow. Sometimes they were called dime museums, and it was exactly what it sounds like, a place where the public would pay to see performers with, unique physical conditions or just jaw-dropping skills. It was a business built entirely on curiosity, and for the people up on that stage, it wasn't just a job, it was their whole way of life. Now, here's what's really interesting to me. Behind every single one of those sensational stage names was a real medical condition. These weren't characters somebody made up. They were real people whose lives were shaped by their own biology. So let's take a look at some of the most common conditions you would have seen on the circuit.
First up is acromegaly. Basically, it's a hormonal disorder that makes bones in the hands, feet, and face grow excessively. This one single condition had a massive impact on the lives of several of the era's most famous performers. But as we're about to see, it led them down totally different paths.
And wow, this slide just perfectly illustrates the two sides of that coin. On one hand, you've got Maurice Tillet. He used his unique physique to become the French Angel, a world champion wrestler. He was also a brilliant poet who spoke 10 languages. But on the other hand, you have Marianne Beavenin. She was a former nurse who was cruelly marketed as the ugliest woman in the world just so she could support her kids after her husband died. It's the exact same condition, but it led to two completely different public lives.
Okay, another condition you'd see all the time in the sideshows was hypertrichosis. It's a genetic trait that causes an incredible amount of hair to grow all over the body. And as you can imagine, promoters gave performers with this condition stage names like wolf or dog-faced people.
So you had performers like Alice Elizabeth Doherty, who was often presented as this very gentle, demure figure. And then you had someone like Fedor Jeftichew, who was marketed as the wild Jojo, the dog-faced boy. Some promoters took it even further. Crau Farini was sensationally billed as the literal missing link between apes and humans, which just tapped right into the scientific debates and anxieties of the time.
But it would be a huge mistake to think these performers were just passive exhibits. Not at all. Many of them were absolute masters of their craft. They turned what society saw as a limitation into these displays of breathtaking skill and artistry. They weren't just defined by their bodies, they were defined by their incredible talent.
I mean, just look at Prince Randian, who is known as the human torso. He was born without any limbs, and he trained himself to do these incredible things using only his mouth. He could write, he could paint, and in his most famous act, he could perfectly roll, lick, and light a cigarette. It was just an astonishing display of human adaptability and pure control.
And in that same vein, you have Frances O'Connor. She was born without arms, and she turned everyday actions into an art form. Using only her feet, she would eat a meal, drink from a glass, write letters, and even sew, all with this incredible grace that just captivated audiences. She literally transformed the mundane into something magical.
And then there was Johnny Eck. Billed as the half-boy, he was a phenomenal acrobat who walked on his hands with unbelievable speed and agility. But performing, that was just one of his talents. The man was also an accomplished painter, a sculptor, a puppeteer, and he even conducted small orchestras. He was a true Renaissance man of the sideshow world.
But here's where it gets really wild. The legacy of these performers, it goes way beyond the circus tent. Their images, their stories, they've become woven into the very fabric of our popular culture, especially in a place you might not expect at all, Hollywood. This timeline really shows you just how deep those roots go. Back in 1932, the movie Freaks cast real performers like Johnny Eck and Prince Randian, which preserved their acts on film forever.
Then you've got the famous doll family starring as Munchkins in The Wizard of Oz. Decades later, the look of Jojo the dog-faced boy would inspire Chewbacca, and Maurice Tillet's distinct features were the direct inspiration for Shrek. I mean, their influence is literally everywhere.
So all of this brings us right back to our central question. Were these careers empowering or were they exploitative? And the truth is, it was both. For every story of incredible success, there's another story of profound, heartbreaking injustice. And nothing shows this crazy contrast better than these two stories. On one side, you have George and Willie Muse. They were two albino African-American brothers who were kidnapped as children and forced to perform. They were billed as ambassadors from Mars. Their mother fought for years to get them back. And on the complete other side, you have Annie Jones, the bearded woman. She started performing as an infant and grew into one of P.T. Barnum's biggest stars, becoming a wealthy, respected performer who totally embraced her unique look.
The story of the Muse Brothers is so crucial because it isn't just about exploitation. It's about resistance. Their story, as it says here, is remembered as a symbol of family resistance. Their mother's fight to get them back and to get them fair pay. It became this powerful stand against the awful racism and abuse that was often just rampant behind the scenes. And yet, for so many others, the Sideshow was actually a lifeline. People like Grace McDaniels, known as the Mule-Faced Woman, built a career that let her travel the world and support her son. The circus world provided this really unique community, a place where being different wasn't just accepted, it was actually celebrated. For some people, it was the only place they felt they could truly belong.
So in the end, there's just no single easy answer here. The world of the Sideshow was this incredibly complex mix of artistry, community, exploitation, and resilience. And looking back at it, it really forces us to ask a tough question about our own time. A question you see right here. What parts of our modern entertainment will future generations look back on with that same strange mix of fascination and discomfort? Something to think about.